Tired of how slow government services can be? Don't think it should take years to make necessary changes? Well, I may have an alternate solution to this problem. Hello, my name is Mackenzie Cook, and today I'm going to hopefully persuade you to turn to more privately run businesses rather than government operated. My first example I want to mention is the post office. This government-run facility loses money every year from its operating expenses exceeding its revenue. As you can see here in this chart that I got from zerohedge.com, at the top portion here, you can see all their expenses that they get, their revenue. And as you can see, it balanced out quite well in the beginning with very little expenses draining their account. But as the years progressed, it simply was never able to fully recover from the plummet it endured. It is simply too large of an industry for its expenses to be covered by charging postage on mail. Just in the last decade, the post office lost around $120 billion in funds. According to Forbes.com, private companies are already outdoing the post office. One article stated that Amazon and other major retailers have already been entering into contracts to make use of the Postal Service infrastructure. I understand that the Postal Service does supply jobs to individuals, but so do these more effective retailers. The second example I want to touch on is one that has been a burden in my own town. Fort Donelson is a Civil War battlefield that has recently been transformed into a park, and it is a large part of my community. We've had school trips there, there are wildlife preservation centers there, and it is a place full of historical aspects. But the only problem is that this facility is government run because it is on government property. And that means any changes it might need has to go through government-regulated processing. In 2015, some renovations needed to be done onto its visitor center. Their entrances and exits didn't have proper ramps for anyone with walkers or wheelchairs. This, along with a few other issues, needed to be addressed. And they were. That wasn't an issue. The actual problem arose when construction began and continued far past what was appropriate for its few issues it had. Construction started in September of 2015 and has been repeatedly postponed over and over again through the years. The park superintendent, Brian McCutcheon, stated that on radio on NWTN for almost 10 months, it has been non-stop process between the National Park Service's engineers and contracting professionals and others involved in the project. During this time, there has been no additional work done on site. Even now, the park is not completely finished. This could have been finished years ago if a different group were in charge of its construction. I know that some of the drawbacks were caused by issues out of the hands of construction crews, and red tape can take forever to get through, but for it to take half a decade to get small issues fixed, it seems excessive and unnecessary. And my final example of poorly executed government-run operations is that of the VA. The VA, or more formally, the Department of Veteran Affairs, was created to help with issues at home and focuses on the medical aspect of care for veterans. The idea of universal health care being provided for our hardworking veterans is wonderful in theory. The actual product, however, is anything but. The VA has become notorious for being cramped, overrun, understaffed, and barely operable, and is seen as a disservice to those who risk their lives to come home to such terrible conditions in the VA. CNBC.com commented on this by stating, "The U.S. has been involved in a growing list of military operations, including the 17-year-long war in Afghanistan. The VA is struggling to keep up with the need for veteran care continues to mount. Regular facilities work so much better and can provide care for veterans in a much easier way. Now, I understand that having some aspect for veterans only is a good idea, but that can be incorporated into our existing medical operations now and work much better than something government-run. All these examples show that government-run facilities and programs don't work nearly as well as privately owned. And there is always a better alternative. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but I do urge you to look into the facts before making that opinion and taking a side. Thank you all for listening, and I hope that this has been informative in your coming to your own conclusions on this topic. Thank you.